Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Dr. Hamzah speak in this video again. This video for the second part for our lecture entitled water pollution. So this water pollution under the chapter number 5 in our course. So based on this slide, we want to discuss about the sources that can cause the water pollution. Based on this slide, two types of sources that can cause the water pollution is what? The first one, foreign sources. Contaminants that enter the waterway from a single identifiable source such as a pipe or ditch. Example of sources in this category include discharges from a sewage treatment plant, a factory or a city storm drain. The second sources that can cause a similar problem, which can be referred to diffuse contamination that does not originate from the single discrete source. A common example is the leaching out of nitrogen compound from the fertilizer agricultural land. Nutrient runoff in the stormwater from the sheet flow over the agricultural field or a forest are also cited as example of NPS pollution. Next slide, we want to discuss about the water pollution. But in this slide, we want to discuss about the cause agent for this problem. Based on this slide, some example of them, which are industrial waste, chemical fertilizer and pesticide, oil refineries, okay, accident on huge cargo ship, dumping toxic pollutant in the water. Next slide, continue discussion of water pollution, but in this slide we want to discuss about the effect of it. Okay, the first one, it has the ability to destroy many animal habitats and cause irreparable damage to many ecosystems. It makes clean drinking water unable to drink, destroy habitat for animals and destroy many ecosystems, disturb food chain. Humans will get diseases from polluted water and sick seafood. This is the effect of water pollution, whereby it can affect our environment and to human health as well. Based on this slide again, based on the data statement that presented in this slide, it is shown or stated that the effect of water pollution depends on what kind of pollutant or substance that present in that polluted water and also include of heat concentration as well. Next slide, this one, we are continuing to discuss the effect of water pollution on human health. What kind of example of the effect of human health toward the water pollution? The first one, rhesus, stomach or liver illness, respiratory problem, neurological effect, blue baby syndrome, reproductive risk, and the last one, risk of cancer. Next, continue our lecture on the next slide, this one, continue about the water pollution. Okay, this slide, we want to discuss about the control measures or what kind of management that can be practiced to manage this problem. For example, in this slide, we mentioned about 3 examples. The approach that we can practice to manage this problem. The first one, rather than reducing sewage waste into the water body, it is better to treat them before discuss. The second one, using the water hygiene. This is specific one which can dissolve toxic chemical compound or a certain heavy metal, for example like cadmium, which this kind of element or the causal agent that can cause water pollution can cause harmful effect to human or also organisms that survive in the water body. Okay, next, another approach or method that can be used to manage the problem that we call chemical method. So this kind of method that help in control of water pollution. For example, which are precipitation, the ion exchange process, reverse osmosis, and the last one, population. Continue our discussion about the chapter number 5 for our course, but right now we want to discuss about the second environmental issue related about our course. This kind of environmental issue is titled deforestation. So based on this slide, we can define what we mean by deforestation term. Now let's discuss about the statement that present in this slide. Forest is an important source for satisfying people demand and need. Yes, forests are three very important in human to survive this world and include for other animal and organism in this world. But people are exploiting forest resources. This is forest on the first statement within this slide, the process of exploiting forests by humans. This is the meaning or definition that belongs to deforestation. The second statement in this slide, it mentions about the clearance of forest done by human beings in order to meet their needs is also known deforestation. This is another definition belong to deforestation. Next, the last statement belongs to this slide. Forest has a vital role in meeting people's needs. Yes, very important forest also to human beings or to other organisms. Therefore, people usually cut down the tree of the forest without having proper knowledge. Now, students, let's continue our discussion about deforestation. In this slide, it mentioned about two questions in regard about the deforestation process. The first question, why human beings cut down the tree or in forest? What does the effect of this activity toward our environment? So this question both questions can be answered in our next slide. This is the slide I want to mention about how to answer the two questions that present in the previous slide. The first statement belongs to this slide talking about deforestation matter. The first one, rainforests have to control global warming because they absorb carbon dioxide. That's one of the major, major importance of forest or tree that present in this one. In recent years, large area or rainforests have been destroyed. Trees have been cut down to develop agricultural land, for example, or to produce wood in making the furniture, and improve to prepare a land for farming activities, to produce firewood, to develop clothing and so on. This is some example that developed by the human activity that can cause, and that can cause the deforestation happen in this world. So this is the answer for question number one in previous slide. Next, rainforests grow on poor soil, and when they are cut down or burned, the soil is washed away in the tropical rain, and this area may turn to desert. This is the effect. One of the effect of the cutting the cutting of the tree or the cutting of rainforest that happen in this world. This is the effect whereby certain area that suffering from deforestation process could turn into desert later on. Next info related about deforestation. Now, within this slide, we want to discuss about the process agent for the deforestation. The first one, commercial logging, agricultural practice, infrastructure, for example, development of industry area and road and railway development. Followed by another factor or agent that we call forest fire, mining and drilling, overgrazing, and last one, urbanization. Among all these things, development of land. For development, this is one of the factors why deforestation happens in this world. Now let's continue our discussion about deforestation, the effect of deforestation as shown in this slide. Some of the effect of it, as mentioned in this slide, which are loss of species, soil erosion, life quality, global warming, acidic ocean, desertification, and lastly, vanishing rainforest. Students, let's continue our discussion for the similar title, talking about deforestation. Now we want to talk the management, how to solve the problem or to reduce in terms of its. The first method or step to overcome this problem. The first one, for example, afforestation, establish a new forest when no forest is existing previously. The second solution that we can practice to overcome or to reduce the impact of deforestation, which is cutting must be replaced by the planting the young tree. Next slide, talking about deforestation again. Control measure or deforestation. How to control it? Making law and regulation, promote recycling, use recycled products, use alternate energy resources like solar power and wind power, educate others to fight against deforestation, and lastly, ban on clear cutting of forest. So then, this is another type of environmental issue. The third one we want to discuss about it in our chapter number 5 in our course. This kind of the third one environmental issue, which is named as climate change. So what do we mean by climate change here? Climate change refers to the long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns. This shift may be natural, such as through variation in solar cycle. But since the 1800s, human activity has been the main driver of the climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuel like coal, oil, and gas. Now, continue discussion about the climate change. Now we want to discuss about the further agent for this matter and include the evidence, the reason of the problem that is in this world. Okay, now, based on statement in this slide, I just read it. Okay, the current Earth climate warming trend is extremely likely over 95% probability to be the result of human activity since the middle 20th century. So based on this slide, it mentioned that the human activity becomes the major factor that contributes the existing or the increase of climate change effect. So, the evidence of the reason of the problem based on some of the conditions. The first one, global temperature rise, warming ocean, shrinking ice sheet and snow cover, extreme weather event, and lastly, ocean acidification. Now, let me continue our discussion about climate change. As I said in previous slide, okay, climate change can happen due to several factors or several cause agents. Okay, the first one, natural factor. For example, the cause agent under this group of factors, which are variation in solar output, and the last one, second one, large volcanic eruption. The second factor that contributes, the second group, factor that contribute for the climate change is the first one, burning of fossil fuel, deforestation, and lastly, the third one, changing the land use to agriculture and cattle farming, industrial activity, and lastly, urbanization. So then, let's continue our discussion about climate change. Now, why we care about climate change? Preserving the invisible of climate change. Some of the reasons why we have to care or we have to alert about this problem that we call climate change. First of the reason why we have to alert about it. The first one, dramatic food cost increase due to impact on agriculture. Increased frequency of extreme weather events. Water scarcity due to drought and melting of the glacier, and lastly, human migration. Higher number of climate activity. This is the matter that we must alert to manage or overcome the environmental issue that we call climate change. So then let's continue about our discussion on climate change, for this slide. So potential impact of global warming, that in this world and into for the human health. For example, in global, this climate change can cause storm and flooding, heat, vector biology, air pollutant, food supply, and civil conflict. For example, in human health, this kind of problem, can increase the population number of the insects or animals that can cause disease on humans. For example, like mosquito, talking about rat, and also for the cockroaches. So all the animals become a vector that can cause disease to the human. Besides that, based on this slide, climate change, in terms of impact, it can cause the increasing of temperature. Sea level will be increased and include the distribution of rain, which is will be disturbed. That's the impact of climate change at the global level. Next, student, continue discussion about climate change. Major impact of climate change crisis globally. Climate refugee increase, more drought, mass extinction of species, more frequent floods, water scarcity, crop failure, and stronger hurricane. Okay, student, climate change solution or approach that we can practice to control this problem. For example, like phase out fossil fuel, renewable energy, green tech, electricity, mobility, curb deforestation, and this is some example of it that we can practice to manage the problem that we call climate change. Okay, now, that's all for the second part for our discussion on chapter number 5 for our course.